Hello and welcome back to the Pre-Shifts podcast presented by 7 Shifts. My name is DJ and I'll be your host, bringing you stories, advice, and strategies from restaurant industry leaders. Today, I'm joined by Jason Hammel.
My name is Jason Hammel. I am the chef owner of Lula Cafe in Logan Square in Chicago.
Jason Hammel opened Lula Cafe in Chicago's Logan Square neighborhood back in 1999. And more than 20 years later, the award-winning farm-to-table institution is one of the city's most celebrated restaurants. For an industry with a high rate of first-year closures, Lula Cafe's longevity is a testament to what Hammel calls a youthful mindset.
I mean, I think about this all the time as I'm hoping to, do another 25 maybe, or at least another 5 or 10. So like what are the conditions that allow a restaurant to last as long as it does? I think we have a long history in the neighborhood that even predates us. We sort of inherited a space and a lot of goodwill. And I think like really focusing on the foundations that, of our origin, which is, being young and being interested in community and connections between people, like really focusing on that on a daily basis is what has kept us sort of like young and fresh into our 20s. So, I mean, I think staying open to change, having sort of a youthful mindset, a beginner's mindset, is one of the reasons why we made it this far, and keeping that will be hopefully the reason we keep going.
And that youthful mindset permeates through everything from menu to the team experience.
There is an element to that in the cooking, meaning like we're willing to try new dishes and new ideas in the food, not repeat dishes, not just like recycle things that we've done in the past. That's a lot easier. But we've never done that because it sort of creates a new like aha moment in a restaurant. I also think it's like really respecting the paths of the young people who work for us, trying to work with them on their on what they want to do with their lives, and being engaged with that. So I have a lot of great people who are, studying to be psychologists or like in bands or and doing a lot of creative work, and like really being engaged with them and allowing them to sort of thrive in the space also sort of keeps you open to change and maintains that beginner's mindset.
Lula has also been able to maintain many long-standing employees by recognizing that restaurants can be a career and recognizing the role that a restaurant job can have in someone's life.
I mean, Natalie Sternberg is our director of hospitality. She's been there since day one.
Wow.
Kendall Cost is a server who's been there over 15 years. My executive chef's been over there over 10. So a lot of people.
What do you think has enabled, like what about the restaurant has enabled people to stay around for that long? I mean, nowadays it's rare for people to stay at a restaurant for 3 months, 6 months, let alone 10 years. What have you done to create an environment where people are making it a career?
I mean, I certainly think the restaurant industry has always been a career for certain folks, and I want to emphasize that that's very possible for people, especially when they also have other pursuits that could work, whether it's raising a family or doing that kind of thing, or it's creative pursuits. I think that those sort of paths can cohabitate well. That said, I think like why they stay. I think because I hope that they're treated with respect and compensated fairly, and that they like the team, and that being part of this team is something that's important to them in their lives, and that they they contribute a whole lot, and it would not be what it is without those people. And in the pandemic, we had more previous to the pandemic. I had a staff that had been there for a really long time, and I certainly felt the pain of losing some long-term employees, not to other restaurants, but just to the industry in general, when the pandemic happened and we came back. The ones that have stayed are even like more special, like more integral to the space and the place, and people come looking for them and want to talk to them, and that they're as much a part of Lula as I am.
On Lula Cafe's website, they list their mission and values, which include creating joyful moments for the community and promoting care, respect, integrity, safety, and transparency. I've linked to the full version in the show notes, but something that caught my eye when reading them while prepping for my chat with Jason was that they were revised on June 8th, 2021, and I wanted to understand why and what went into that revision.
The pandemic gave us, as with many people, like time to reflect, and obviously the industry has a lot of reflecting to do. And we just wanted to sort of formalize the reflection process. So we set up a weekly meeting. There were only, I think there are 8 or 10 of us at that point, and we were not open for business, like regular business. We were just doing takeout. We did that for a long time, and we met every week to sort of say, like, well, what are we about? What do we want to be about once the imagined return to business actually happens? Like, let's list a number of like values that we had pre-pandemic and like some aspirational values, and meet to discuss that. And we continue to have we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with the management team to like continue to talk about like the mission and vision of the restaurant. I think it's important to recognize that like reflection and like thoughtfulness about who you are and what you want to be and how you want to live is important, but then you have to operationalize the ambitions you have ethically, and if you want to live lead a value oriented and value first business, it's not just about writing it down, but it's about performing it and behaving it every day. That's where the hard part comes.
Totally. What were some of the things that changed when you kind of went in and reworked that vision?
Sure. I mean, the obvious one that a lot of people talk about is that we took on a service fee model and changed to minimum wage, which we had been using previously, to do what we could to rectify the historic imbalance between the front and the back of the house in terms of compensation. We made a lot of progress toward that. It's not a perfect situation by any means. You know, Tipping and restaurant compensation in the United States is really fraught with complexities and difficulties. But we made a stab at it, and we're sticking with it. It's working for us, and it did have an impact on for the better on a lot of people's lives. We also added some benefits that are we had always had 401k and health insurance as benefits, but we did add parental leave, and we also have a better than industry standard PTO policy, and also vacation pay for people who have stuck with us for a while. So the longer you work, the more paid time off that you will get. So I do have people who can take vacations now, paid vacations.
One of the biggest changes that Hammel made was a shift from paying the tipped minimum wage or sub-minimum wage to paying above the minimum wage. After decades of running the old model, the transition wasn't the smoothest, but it did lead to positive changes for the business, including better staff well-being, better retention, and little issues hiring.
Transparency was difficult. We didn't do well in the beginning. It took us time to really figure things out. That said, we were committed to it, in terms of a value. So we stuck with it during some rougher moments, and now we feel like we're in a good place with it. But that was simultaneous to like coming back, and we had limited seating, and there were the whole fight over vaccinations, and like just the whole turmoil of the pandemic. It wasn't a fair playing field in terms of trying a new model out, of course, and it did take time to settle into it. But yeah, it's certainly different. It's not. I mean, there's a lot of conversation around it. It's not. I haven't found it necessarily good for the business, but it's great for a lot of people on the team, and it's not, if you're like only profit minded, like it's not the best choice for a lot of people. But if you're like trying to take care of folks and level out the playing field, it could be a good choice for some folks.
Now, it's one thing, of course, to write down and codify your core values, but as we've covered on the show a few times, you do have to put them into practice. It's different for every restaurant, every leadership team, every business. But the way that Hammel tackles this is through training and providing opportunities for education.
I mean, one of the things that I think is lacking in restaurants is leadership training for management. We're trying to get there. It's really difficult to do when you're, busy all day long every day. So I think if a value is education and like you're having your staff meetings and you're doing wine tastings and you're teaching cooks how to cook and it's all about, teaching people who do not know something so that they grow and then they become managers and then like just everything stops, you know what I mean, for them. That's a huge problem. It's very endemic in the industry that like learning stops at the manager stage. You become a sous chef and then you're like, okay, I got to do the orders and clean at the end of the night and check people out, and like there's no like development. So that's something we're trying to work on. So operationalizing that means like providing opportunities for people to grow and educate, and even if they're managers. Another, if respecting folks' identity is something that is a value, like really paying attention to their needs and their life needs, whether it's like a scheduling situation or like a communication identity situation, like really respecting that in your language and your behavior, that can be operationalized. And I mean, there are many examples like that, but the biggest one is really giving healthy feedback on a more regular basis, which does not happen enough in our industry and does not happen enough in my restaurant. And that's one of the top things that we're trying to focus on now, is like giving constructive, helpful feedback in a timely manner so that people can grow, rather than like punitive or controlling, feedback once there's a problem. So that's another way that we could operationalize that, by like scheduling this and like making sure my managers meet with team members on a regular basis, etc.
The communication, transparency, and education that Jason talks about tells the story of how the restaurant industry has evolved, and not just since 2019. Having owned and operated Lula since 1999, Jason has a unique lens as to how the industry has changed.
The resources to do their jobs effectively means like really listening and then responding to needs and requests. So I think what's different now is I spend a lot less time doing, like a lot less time cooking or like being on the line, and a lot more time trying to process how to be a better communicator as an organization. Like what parts of the organizations are not like communicating in the most effective way, and which ones need more support to be able to communicate better. And then let's trying to listen in an empathetic and active way so that I can make the changes, because restaurants are all about change. I mean, it's like constantly about adapting and change and working, on your feet. So I think that employees expect a lot of transparency and communication, and they deserve that. And those are the standards we're trying to meet.
Absolutely. And that's been kind of, maybe that's what the biggest change, I think, overall, and like in terms, they say, the employees now are not the ones that of 10 years ago, or, there's a lot of talk about that kind of stuff. And this new generation wants different things, but I think at the very core of it, they just want to be communicated with like in a clear and concise way. That's not like leaving people in the dark.
For sure. I mean, and there was also a lot of exploitation of people, and not, not in every restaurant, but in many. And, people are rightfully aware of that and have learned to set boundaries for themselves. And that is, 100% the direction we need to go.
Another piece of that puzzle is technology. When Lula opened, online ordering, scheduling software, and KDSs did not exist. But while Hammel recognizes their utility, he also knows that there are just some things that tech cannot replace.
I think it's very helpful. I mean, certainly scheduling software is incredibly helpful when you have a team of 100 people, needing to switch shifts and communicate with each other. Like, that's been a really helpful change to adapt to that. I think that there are parts of my job, frankly, that like I'm all about AI taking over. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like I expediting a 600 person brunch. I mean, looking at all those tickets and like, my 51-year-old brain, like processing how many of certain items are on fire at what time and when to fire the next batch. Like a computer could definitely do a better job than me. I don't think that the computer would be very good at motivating the folks that are on the line to like cook well when they're dealing with that. So like, I would love a system and like, Toast, Seven Shifts, anybody like hear me out, like that would process the information that's coming in a way that would like better suit the line in terms of expediting. So I think that technology is probably going to come sooner than later. And I would love to use it. I don't think that would change the fact that I want to stand in front of them and say like, that egg, I'd like you to not use that egg and use that one, and this is why, because that one looks better than this one, and this is why. And like the cooking technique can be changed to produce the better quality, or just like to joke with them and be like, when it's busy like that, you need some camaraderie, you need some like, you need to feel like we're having fun at what we're doing and not just getting beat up. So that's going to still be my role, and to try to inspire and teach. My role does not need to be counting how many modified plates there are in a 100-person pickup. Technology could do that better. So yeah, there's some things that human touch will never be replaced by.
As Lula Cafe enters their third decade of operations, Hammel and his team are looking to continue to evolve and keep that curious mindset that has kept them going throughout the years.
I do want to advocate in the industry to, sort of continue leading with values and of, care and kindness. So that's going to continue to develop in our space. And I want to develop like people who want to grow on our team. I have a number of people who want to keep learning and do new things, and I'd like to be part of that process with them. So I don't know where that's going to lead, but I've got great people on my team that want to grow. So my next 25 years or whatever are going to be about supporting those people in their growth, and continuing to provide like a community space that's kind and generous and thoughtful. So that's just like, that's kind of business as usual, but also nothing's usual in restaurants, like it's a tough road and like a challenge. And I'm sure that there'll be some surprises down the road. And like, we have exciting things. We have a cookbook coming out in October. We're looking forward to supporting that in some fun ways. So there's going to be a lot of fun things on the horizon.
Thank you for joining us for the Pre-Shift podcast presented by 7 Shifts. Be sure to follow us on social media for new episodes and bonus content. And as always, my inbox is open, dj@7shifts.com. Let me know what you think of the show, who you want to hear, or just say hello. We'll see you next time.